The coaching carousel looks like it's slowing down, but it's actually getting ready to speed back up. And that proposed private equity deal, well, it's just not fair.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Oh, this is going to be a fun Big Ten crossover. What is going on, everybody? My name is Zach Seyko. I'm the host of Locked On Nittany Lions. He is Jacob Goins, the host of Locked On Hoosiers. And thank you so much for checking out this crossover episode and making us your first listen and watch every single day. As we go around the Big Ten once a week, we make our predictions. We got week 13 picks on tap for you later on in the show. Specifically, we'll talk about James Franklin and the impact for that it's going to have on Penn State with him now officially at Virginia Tech. Indiana injuries are starting to pile up, so that's important to focus on. But the Big Ten coaching carousel, the national coaching carousel, it looks like it's slowing down. It's getting ready to speed back up with Lane Kiffin being potentially the biggest domino. And that private equity deal, the rumored deviations of the money, just downright unfair. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So we'll begin with the coaching carousel, get to the private equity deal proposed, because I can see why it's on hold. I can see why there are a lot of contention, why there's a lot of contention there. Speaking of a lot of contention, you got Lane Kiffin potentially leaving Ole Miss. Brian Kelly has been linked to Michigan State. James Franklin's obviously now at Virginia Tech, so Penn State's getting ready to make its coaching decision, hopefully fairly soon. Is it Bob Chesney starting to gain some traction a little more? James Madison, Jacob, you can relate to that. What are you keying in on as this coaching carousel gets, I think, a lot more interesting here over this past week?
Well, it's fascinating to see how things can change within a couple of hours, and whether it's true or not, you don't really know, right? Because there's so few people in all of these different coaching circles, whether it be Penn State or Florida or LSU or Auburn, or even coaches who are at their current schools who are being linked to other jobs. Lincoln Riley, Eli Drinkwitz, these types of guys. I mean, they're even in the James Franklin situation. There are so few people that actually know what's going on. The internet just takes things and runs with it and has a field day, but that's what makes it all the fun at the same time. And what and you can speak to this better than I can, but this is just a feeling that I have, is I think people are forgetting that Penn State has a job opening. I think the Lane Kiffin drama down in Oxford has
completely went over my head. No idea.
I mean, it just seems like everybody wants to talk about Lane Kiffin and where he's going. And I don't think he's been directly linked to a Big Ten job per se, but then you throw in Lincoln Riley, if he's starting to be coaching for his job, and who does Michigan State go after? And then, of course, Penn State, which people are forgetting is one of the biggest job openings in the country. It just seems like it's an ever-changing storyline, and there's somebody new linked to a new job every single day, it seems like.
I mean, we didn't even name him. Steve Sarkisian in Texas. Desmond Howard, if we want to bring this back to the Big Ten, former Michigan wide receiver, goes essentially on the record saying, I think Texas is going to be opened up at the end of the season, alluding to maybe Sarkisian going to the NFL or something like that. So this is just, unprecedented doesn't even describe it anymore. Crazy doesn't even describe it anymore. You have so much coaching movement. I am trying to wait and see, does Lincoln Riley take the LSU job? I know Kenny Dillingham, and again, so much changes on a day-to-day basis. Kenny Dillingham being potentially the favorite. Lincoln Riley's a Texas Tech guy. Does Joey McGuire move or anything like that? So that's why I'm kind of wondering, does he move there, especially with the resources that are committed? Is he just unhappy? Or just USC and Lincoln Riley unhappy at the end of the day? Is Michigan State really going to go with Brian Kelly? I can see it. I mean, they don't with what do they, I don't want to, yeah, I guess I do. What do they have to lose? Honestly, I know the baggage that he brings with him, but for Michigan State, objectively, that would be a better hire than, well, he's a better football coach. I don't know about a better hire, because then that means, well, he's a better person. That means he's a better, that's a better manager of player personnel and stuff like that. But when it comes
I think for Michigan State, for Michigan State, you have to ask where are they at on the national scale, right? And that's what That's what I'm saying. You have to determine that of, is Michigan State a place in the next decade of the era that we're in, if nothing changes or if it gets worse, like most people think it will, especially if we're talking private equity stuff in just a moment, is Michigan State a place that can win a national title in the next 10 years? I don't think so.
10.
I don't think so.
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't
20.
think that's the case. Exactly. Even worse. And so you could make the comparison, which we're going to talk about James Franklin to Virginia Tech in just a moment, but I would make the same comparison that Michigan State hiring Brian Kelly would be like Virginia Tech hiring James Franklin. It makes sense. They're proven winners against teams that they're better than. They're not going to win the big ones. They're not going to win you titles, but they could revive those programs. I think James Franklin will do so in Virginia Tech. I think Brian Kelly could do so at Michigan State, but the expectations have been limited over time. And I think that's why that would kind of make sense if Michigan State goes to Brian Kelly.
I'm glad you mentioned it because we could get so far in depth about the coaching carousel, but just kind of summon all of it up. Lane Kiffin's going to be a big domino there with, does he bolt from Ole Miss because he wants to win a title? Okay. And I don't know that he believes he can do that on a consistent basis at Mississippi. So you got to think about Florida. You got to think about LSU because these jobs they're not supposed to open up regularly. And if you miss your opportunity and if Ole Miss happens to sabotage you, right? You're not going to routinely get back to the spot where you're a powerhouse year by year at Mississippi. So that's why this is happening. Well, speaking about being a powerhouse and everything, the Big Ten private equity deal, what's been proposed and what's been leaked and rumored is just flat out unfair. Jacob, the Hoosiers should take this personally because here are the alleged details of it. The proposed Big Ten equity deal, and this is all schools have to agree with it or else it's not going to happen, which is totally understandable here and why some schools might not agree with it. 190 million, and this is a 2.4 billion proposal. But how would this be divvied up? Oh, everyone gets an even slice of the pie, right? Not exactly. No, not all things are going to be fair here. $190 million would go to Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. Hey, for the people that say that Penn State's nothing like Ohio State and Michigan, there you go. You're wrong. I just want to get a jab out there. But
clip it and put it on the internet as much as you can. You heard it here first from Zach Seyko.
But they are. I think it's interesting that they're grouped in that top bracket.
I agree.
155 million would go to USC and Oregon. 110 million would go to everybody else, and that includes Indiana. That's the surprising part, that basically 5 schools get the largest lump sum. And then everybody else, it's like, I mean, $110 million is $110 million. But Jacob, my goodness, that's a slap in the face to all the other programs saying, hey, these 5 are better than you. You just happen to piggyback off of all these other brands. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and I get it from a historical standpoint, but if all 18 teams have to agree, shouldn't all 18 teams get the exact same amount of money? Like it's everybody's going to benefit from it. And you can argue whether you like this being private equity investing in college athletics and things. I have a strong opinion on that, but we don't have time right now. But if all the teams in the conference have to agree, then I think they should all get the same amount. Give them their money, let them do whatever they want with it, and then we can move on and don't have to worry about it. But I don't see all 18 teams agreeing with it because I don't think a team like Indiana or Michigan State or somebody, they shouldn't have to give in to that. They shouldn't have to say, no, we're not agreeing to you screwing us over and giving more money to these other programs just because they're your favorite child. That's not how this works. And so I don't think it'll ever go through, but if it does, everybody needs to get the same.
Money talks, right? And
yep.
I know that $110 million would certainly help out institutions like Rutgers, for example. But
sure.
It's ironic, though, as I mentioned Rutgers, one of the quotes is this: there was a source that was representing the school, one of the other schools, and they said, wait, so we're the same as Rutgers? Like, they were completely surprised. And it's like, I can understand. I can understand why you're disgruntled with that. But you know what's interesting enough is that Michigan and USC are the 2 schools that are the biggest proponents of preventing this equity deal from going through. It's the schools with the biggest to gain from this. And so it's surprising to me that, Penn State, where they kind of stand with success with honor and everything. I would like to not see it go through, because then it means that college football is corporatized, but I guess we're going to head that way one way or another. So different discussion, different debate, but it's interesting to me that Michigan and USC, who benefit the most from this since they're in tier 1 and tier 2, are actually the biggest enemies against it.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And you feel like they have more than just that argument alone. Feels like there's more reasoning behind it than just that. I would think if those two are the most vocal, which they clearly are, then yeah, I feel like there's more motivation than just that, in my opinion.
James Franklin, part of this coaching carousel. Well, I guess not anymore, because
Not
he's
anymore.
at Virginia, because he got off. He is at Virginia Tech, and he's already making way with trying to get former Penn State players and recruits. Indiana injuries are piling up. So what does their personnel look like going forward, especially when they got a Big Ten championship on the line against Ohio State potentially? So we're going to discuss that more, plus get to our Week 13 predictions. That's coming up next year on this Locked On Crossover. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back. There's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game, where you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot and an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets. That's right, $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And that can be used on anything: NBA, NFL, college football. Lines are available for Penn State football this weekend against Nebraska. Penn State is a 9.5-point favorite, minus 365 on the money line, plus 285 if you're thinking Nebraska for the upset. Total is set at 44.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com and the FanDuel app. And remember, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
We're talking the coaching search and the coaching carousel, the thing that's going at 100,000 miles an hour. But somehow, some way, Seyko, you said it, James Franklin hopped off, waved goodbye, and said that Blacksburg was the place he wanted to put his roots. And so I've got to ask, we haven't had a chance to talk about this off the mic or on it since the news came out. Are Penn State fans okay? Like, are they okay here with him taking an ACC job, right? He didn't go to Los Angeles. He didn't go to East Lansing. He didn't take another Big Ten job and to shove it to Penn State. He's going to Virginia Tech. He should stay over there and stay in his own business, but maybe some recruiting things as well. But on the forefront, how we feeling there in State College, my man?
How we're feeling? It definitely, to speak collectively for everybody, you're going to have people that say, hey, good for him. Hope he succeeds at Virginia Tech. We appreciate what he did. There are other people that are like, glad he's out of town. Hope it crashes and burns and fails at Virginia Tech. Yeah. And then there is this, it is awkward. It is a little strange to kind of, for the majority of the fans, I think, and that's not 70, 80, 90%, but I think there's a strong portion that it is strange. Franklin had a lot of success at Penn State. He's going to carry a lot of his tenets right over to Virginia Tech. So to see him already at a new place, Virginia Tech fans are immediately grateful. And it's just kind of a reminder of where this coaching search, or why this coaching search took place. Virginia Tech was looking for somebody to elevate their floor. Penn State was looking for someone to elevate their ceiling. Okay, so there are immediate connections to former recruits, former commits, and Virginia Tech's like, this is great. This guy's so good. And I remember all along over the summer when some of these players were being recruited and how the analysis was, well, he's just some 3-star. Well, he's just some low-end 4-star. There's a reason there's a reason Ohio State's not going after him. There's a reason Texas isn't going after him, or Notre Dame. So I just kind of remember those conversations. But at Virginia Tech, it's like, this is great. This quarterback's awesome. This player would be the highest rated recruit if they were able to land him. James Franklin's wasting no time. And all these players on Penn State's roster would be all-stars here for the Hokies. And It's real. It really is interesting because I mean, I agree with that. 9-3, 10-2 at Virginia Tech is amazing to them. At
Historic.
at Penn State, it's not good enough. It's not. And I'm not saying that, nor am I arguing for it, but there is an expectation to win a national title or to perform better at some point in time. Again, it was the same story over and over. It was the same movie. You knew how it was going to end. You'd go 10-2. You'd lose to whatever the two powers were in the Big Ten side. Truly, it was literally every single time. But Jacob, here's what I want to point out the most about this is that this was always what the national media or the critics of Penn State and James Franklin would hammer about about the program when it was what it was, is that y'all can't win the big game. You guys are getting stuffed into a locker by Notre Dame and Ohio State and Michigan when it comes to recruiting. Penn State's never going to be better than 10-2. You should be happy with the results that you're getting. And they would dunk on James Franklin because, oh, he'll never elevate you. You are where you are. And now he's the greatest coach. You should be thankful for 10-2 because James Franklin got you there. You'll never be better than because of it. So it's this comprehensive perception for the most part. Again, I want to speak for a majority of people. That doesn't mean it's 80-90%, but the largest and loudest group of people say that Penn State's never going to be anything better than 9-3 or 10-2. And that's where this stems from. So now they're singing James Franklin's praises because he's not affiliated with Penn State anymore. But the things that they would criticize about Penn State, James Franklin was responsible for. But now that's changed where that was actually Penn State's fault. That wasn't James Franklin's fault.
That's so weird. Like that doesn't add up to me. That doesn't make any sense. And it almost seems backwards of what you typically think, where in this situation, it was let's tear James Franklin down until they get rid of him. But now that he's gone and taken another job, which also, side note, by the way, the money situation is fascinating. Didn't they owed him what, 40 plus, nearly 50 mil. They negotiated something to where he's only making 9 from Penn State because he took another job. Is that right? Is that how did I read that correctly?
Yep.
I don't understand fired head coaches who get paid tens of millions of dollars to go away, quit working, go find a house, go to the mountains, go to the beach, go across the world, man. They said, nah, I'll take 9 million and I'll take another job. Blows my mind. But anyway, with James Franklin at Penn State, the situation you just laid out just doesn't make sense to me, where we're going to tear this guy down. And I think he deserved it, not personal things, just the fact that he couldn't win big games.
The criticism was just at times. Yeah.
Correct. Absolutely. But now that he's gone, it's like, oh, wow, maybe we did have it good. Maybe James Franklin was the reason Penn State was so big and bad. I think he deserves a lot of credit, but I think Penn State made the right move by saying, we believe we can do better. We believe we can be better than that. And I also want to note and just throw this out there for the Indiana fans. I'm so glad we didn't have to get caught up in this. I'm glad we took Curt Cignetti and paid this man. Do I fully agree with the amount and fully guaranteed? No, but we're not having to deal with all this coaching stuff. So we're sitting fat and happy in Bloomington, brother.
That's why you have the guarantees, because it is worth that kind of investment to keep something where you know what you're getting. You have a sure thing. And again, he's elevated you immediately, that it's only going to either stay consistent or get better from here with Curt Cignetti. So why leave that up to chance? Again, a lot of other programs have hesitated to an extent, but now you see Mike Elko come off the board. But Lane Kiffin, okay, is he going to jump onto the board, right? Here's the final thing, that because I want to hear, what's Indiana's injury situation. The last thing that I'll say about Franklin to Virginia Tech is I still am in slight disbelief that he settled to an extent. There are people that are saying, well, this was in the works the entire time. He was going to come to Virginia Tech. He just needed some guarantees, and he's a great coach. He lands in an ideal spot. That's true. All those things can be true. But why, if he was so great, if he was one of these top tier coaches, why didn't Florida scoop him up? Why didn't Auburn scoop him up? Why didn't LSU even consider him? Like, his name wasn't even mentioned by one important person at Louisiana State. You also need to talk about that. James Franklin is what he is. His credibility needs to be reestablished, but he's not this A-tier coach anymore. He's not the best of the best elite at all. He's a really good coach that's trying to prove that he's great again. And I wonder how long is he going to stay at Virginia Tech if he has instant success?
Yeah, I think it's a good question that not many people are bringing up, and so that's the drama or lack thereof going on there in Penn State. But got some drama going on here at Indiana. I know the Hoosiers are on a bye week and want to give some perspective on what's going on with Indiana football right now. A much needed bye week. I've claimed it's a perfectly timed bye week, which some people like to say that all the time is, oh yeah, couldn't have asked for a better one. But I really believe that's the case for Indiana because you played 6 games in a row between your first bye week and your second bye week. That's a lot of Big Ten football. And Indiana has played some dramatic games in there, right? Iowa and Oregon and Penn State, right? As your fans definitely remember. And so even the Wisconsin game wasn't overly pretty. And Indiana's banged up, man. Elijah Surratt, top 3 receiver in the country. He has not played the last 2 weeks. I think he is going to be good to go. They've just held him out. Kalon Black, your second running back, got banged up against Wisconsin. You've had offensive line injuries like Drew Evans in there. Your long kicker on kickoffs and pretty much 45 yards and out. Frankie has been banged up, and you're just now getting some of your defensive guys back, including All-American linebacker Aiden Fisher. So Indiana is genuinely thanking the schedule makers for how this thing lined up in themselves, of course. And it's a perfectly timed bye week where you take the week off, you get right, you get healthy, you could start preparing for Purdue next week, and then hopefully Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. And I think Indiana needs to start doing that. I think the Hoosiers need to start preparing for the Buckeyes right now because you'll be 3 or 4 touchdowns better than Purdue next Friday, even though it's on the road at night. I don't care. Purdue's bad. You need to start preparing for the Buckeyes right now, and I think that's what the Hoosiers are doing in the bye week.
I mean, then that's what I was going to say is the bye week couldn't have come at a better time. If you have these injuries, you want to take care of them as best as possible now with respect of, maybe this is a good game to get the backups in against Purdue. So it's all about Ohio State. It's all about Ohio State from here. I'm not saying, hey, don't overlook any opponent. Someone can always sneak up on you. And Purdue is looking to play spoiler. But at the same time, you also do have to manage because getting a bye and if your team's not that healthy and you can surprise Ohio State and get a bye in there for the playoff, more power to you. I think Indiana, confident Cignetti and Indiana know what they're doing with injury management here.
Yeah, and there's people, and we'll move on and make our Big Ten Week 13 picks in just a moment. There are people who still believe that Indiana just going undefeated in the regular season before the Big Ten championship game would secure you a top 4 seed, regardless of what happens against the Buckeyes. I think that's an ongoing debate, one that I've had on Locked On Hoosiers. My thoughts are pretty clear. I don't think it'll happen, but I think there are chances where conference championship games are not worth it for teams like Indiana, where you have a lot to lose and not a ton to gain, but more on that at a different time. So, hey, let's make some picks, huh? Let's talk Week 13. We're down to 2 more weeks in the regular season, Seyko. We talk about the Big Ten, the biggest games this week, and make our predictions coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service.
Week 13 is here. Penn State's got a night game. Indiana's on a bye. Pretty interesting slate here for the Big Ten, though, as Oregon and USC. Game day's out there again. Game day's going back to Eugene. So, all right. No, whatever. They can make that decision. Let's go rapid fire into these games because we got a lot to cover. and Ohio State and Rutgers. Not the most interesting game. It's on big noon, so I guess Fox thinks it's interesting enough where Ohio State to beat up on Rutgers by 30 points or more. Are you taking that 31.5 point spread?
No, because Ohio State hasn't really done that at all this year. I know they did it against UCLA, but even against Purdue and Penn State and Wisconsin, it was right there at the end. I think back to the Washington game and things. And look, Rutgers can move the football a little bit.
They can.
Ohio State's got to figure out if their receivers are good to go. They're very hush-hush on Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. They're going to hold those guys out as much as they can in preparation for a Big Ten championship game and for the college football playoff. So just for the fun of it, I'll take Rutgers plus 31.5. Why not?
You know, that is a hefty spread. You bring up a good point about we just don't know how healthy or how much Ohio State's going to try to protect those guys. The fact that Rutgers can score and get a backdoor cover here, I think is very possible. So give me, oh my goodness, can't believe I'm saying it, the Scarlet Knights to cover. All right, yes. I agree with you there. And also a little bit of an under as well. I'll take under 55.5 there too. Yep. Northwestern, Minnesota kicks off at noon Eastern time on the Big Ten Network. Northwestern, 3.5, maybe 4.5 point favorites, depending on when you listen to this, 40.5 total. I like Northwestern here. I think Northwestern can win by a touchdown against Minnesota.
Yeah, I hate that they're on a 3-game losing streak, and they've all been pretty good games and had every chance to pull the upset against Michigan last week. And I really like this Northwestern team. I like that they're not at home. They're actually in Wrigley Field playing another game in Chicago. Yes. So, yeah, give me Northwestern, man. It'll be ugly. The total's 40 points. It could be less than that, but I like Northwestern to win this game. They're just going to be the more physical and just the nastier team than Minnesota. Give me Northwestern to win and to cover.
3:30 Eastern time kickoff, 12:30 local time. Oregon against USC, playoff implications. Maybe this is the game we should have led with, but the Ducks, this is a better challenge for them since they're not playing Ohio State. We know that Penn State is what it is at this point in time. So USC could be a serious reality check. They're a 10.5 point favorite. I'm kind of liking USC to at least cover that. I don't know if I'll go as far to say an upset, but I am liking USC to cover a hefty spread like that. And then the total over 60 is pretty lofty. Oregon hasn't been as much of the juggernaut offensively that I thought they would be this season. But I know that USC wants to push the pace. Lines are appropriate. I will say under because I think 60 is a lot of points, and I will take USC to cover that.
Yeah, the last couple of games that Oregon offensively has not looked good is Iowa and Wisconsin. And what do those two teams have in common? Insanely good defensive fronts, right? I mean, that's what those two teams do. They get after the quarterback and they stop the run. I don't trust USC to do that consistently. 10 points is a lot. I'll take USC to keep it within 7 to 10, maybe a backdoor cover here, but I like Oregon to win and knock USC out of the playoffs.
Yeah, it'll be. And then does that have any implications for Lincoln Riley, right?
Ooh, maybe.
Yeah, the kind of as the final chance to save your job or to see if things will go over smoothly for the future. Michigan State, could they be looking for a coach? Is Jonathan Smith trying to salvage his job? Because they look bad against Penn State. They are 17-point underdogs against the Iowa Hawkeyes, 42.5 total. Iowa officially just knocked out of any sort of respect. Oh, is this a top 25 team?
Another close loss for the Hawkeyes, baby. Everybody clap your hands. Another close loss for Iowa.
So Iowa, once again, I mean, hey, they played Oregon tough. They played USC tough. That's why I can see this game just being, Kirk Ferentz does know how to remotivate his players. So even though there isn't anything on the line, I do see Iowa trying to stick it to Michigan State here.
Yeah, no, I think Iowa wins and wins big. Michigan State, you said it. They look bad. Iowa has proven that they can score at times, and I think Michigan State gives up here. I like Iowa to win and cover.
Michigan, Maryland. I was surprised that Bryce Underwood did not look any better last week. I mean, he struggled. Northwestern is, again, a respectable team, but I was not anticipating that one to be as close as it was. So I was wrong to say, like, hey, Michigan should win this handedly, 2 touchdowns. Well, they're 2 touchdown favorites again at Maryland. The battle of true freshman starting quarterbacks. Which one's better? Malik Washington, Bryce Underwood? If you put Malik Washington on a better football team, like say you drop him on Michigan's roster, Malik Washington might have more respect nationally than people are giving him credit for. For respect to this conversation, Michigan is just such a better, more complete team. but I kind of like the idea of Maryland covering here against Michigan, because I'm a little concerned about what the Wolverines are.
Yeah, I like Maryland to cover. Absolutely. Maryland and Malik Washington, their offense can really get going. And Michigan, we know they want to play down and dirty defense, but I think Maryland can hit a big play or two. Michigan's coming off a close game against Northwestern. Maryland covers, but Michigan squeaks out a win on Saturday afternoon.
7 p.m. Eastern time on NBC. How does Penn State keep getting these national games? I have no, well,
Yeah.
because of the brand power. There's brand power there. Well, it's also the Land Grant Trophy last week, but this week, Matt Rule, homecoming, former Penn State grad, former Penn State football player, returns with Nebraska, but no Dylan Raiola. This is why Penn State is nearly a 10-point favorite, 9.5 per our friends over at FanDuel, totals 44.5. I do like the momentum that Terry Smith, the interim head coach, has built. Penn State collectively is a better team than Nebraska. They don't have their starting quarterback. I'm thinking that Penn State, with just how they continue to improve and make these incremental changes, that winning by double digits is not far-fetched here. And I think the fans will continue to show up and try to support this team as much as possible before the impending changes.
Look, Nebraska was not a great football team with Dylan Raiola. They will not be a good football team without Dylan Raiola. And the scenes of Terry Smith getting his first win after Penn State had just gone through the ringer of 6 in a row, those were cool moments for me. I love that type of stuff in college athletics, and I think Penn State uses that. It's a night game in Happy Valley. I'll take Penn State to protect home field and cover the spread, Mr. Seyko, inside of Beaver Stadium.
Speaking of just momentum building, Wisconsin keeps covering. Wisconsin gets a win. They get a cover. Illinois is surprisingly only a 7.5-point favorite, 40.5-point total. This is a homecoming for Brett Bielema.
Yes.
So does this game, Luke Fickell, Brett Bielema, that would normally be an awesome coaching battle, but not under these circumstances here. Are we liking Wisconsin again now that the spread's a little lower? I'm thinking yes, because Illinois is just, again, not as good as I thought they would be this season.
I think it's the Wisconsin defensive front. If they can bully the Illinois offensive line and get after Illinois' offense, I think Wisconsin's going to have every chance to win this game. I saw Wisconsin up close and personal last week against the Hoosiers, and while their offense is hit or miss, their defense shows up. And so this game's at home. It's a night game. It's going to be chilly, right? Going to be flirting with upper 30s in this game. Wisconsin, do I dare do it? I do. I'm picking Wisconsin to pull off the upset because chaos in college football is how it's supposed to be. I'll take Wisconsin to pull off the upset here.
Final game, Washington. What do they have? What kind of fight do they have left in them? UCLA, who's still looking for a head coach. 10.5-point favorite are the Huskies, 51.5 total. UCLA has fallen off a lot, a ton. I like Washington to continue to capitalize on it. It's not a far trip for them. There's really not too much travel in this instance. This is still an offense that I don't think UCLA is going to be able to keep up with. They don't have the tricks up their sleeve anymore. Give me Washington by at least 3 touchdowns, honestly. I think they take over.
Yeah, they beat a bad defense a week ago in Purdue, and I think they're going to do it again this week. You talk about Washington. Their offense has struggled against who? Really good defenses: Wisconsin, Ohio State, Michigan. But this has been a disappointing team for me this season. But UCLA is just so bad. And I don't think hardly anybody will be watching this game, unfortunately. But I'll take Washington to win. I'll take Washington to win big.
And that is where we will conclude things on this Locked On crossover to look across the entirety of the Big Ten. My name is Zach Seyko, the host of Locked On Nittany Lions. He is Jacob Goins, the host of Locked On Hoosiers. Subscribe to both of our YouTube channels and wherever you get your podcasts for daily conversations around Penn State and Indiana news and analysis. Jacob, it's great to catch up with you. Great to see you every week. And can't wait to do it again next week.
Yep, that's right. We'll do it again this time next week.